Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co.
I'm Professor Meg.
And today we are reviewing Mountain Goat's Legacy from Allplay. This over here is... Oh, this is falling. This over here is a prototype, all rules and components subject to change, and we'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below. But first, several things to get into before we talk about this game. Number one, this is a spoiler-free review, which I know some of you like and some of you don't like. I'm sorry.
No spoilers.
It's gotta be what it's gotta be. I know sometimes you're like, well, we want more information, so it actually sounds like an interesting review, and other people are like, well, we don't want things ruined, so the second camp gets it, at least for now. Secondly, I'll say that please note this channel is currently sponsored by Allplay. While this review is not sponsored, the channel is, so obviously take any conflict of interest or potential bias, not potential, there's a straight up bias, but whether I can power past that bias, I'll leave that up to you. We're going to talk about the game. If this is helpful to you, then great, and if not, I completely get it. And then lastly, this is going to be a review of Mountain Goat's Legacy, but they also have in this campaign Enchanted Ivy. There'll be a gameplay and a review of this on the channel. Feel free to check that out. For right now, we're going to focus on Mountain Goat's Legacy. Also, I'm really happy with how that slide went. I was like feeling pretty cool about it. I went straight off camera.
Hey Alex, what is Enchanted Ivy?
Enchanted Ivy is a solo game. That, by the way, the gameplay we're going to be doing is us playing a solo game together, because they wanted you to see that, you know, solo games can be played together if you're willing to not fight over every single move. So we'll see how that goes. We haven't done it yet. I'm optimistic. We'll see. Anyways, Mountain Goat's Legacy. Mountain Goat's Legacy is basically Mountain Goats. It's Mountain Goats, but with a whole lot more going on. Mountain Goats is one of the first small box campaigns, possibly the first one. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mountain Goats actually comes in one of those small boxes just like Enchanted Ivy.
The original Mountain Goats did. I backed that campaign way back when as Mountain Goats, Sequoia, and GPS. I still have GPS and Mountain Goats from it. One of the first campaigns that started this Allplay doing all these like small box, medium box, etc. campaigns. Now they're coming back with a that slide works really well. I like this sliding.
Specifically those boxes.
Yeah, they work really well. It doesn't always work that well. Mountain Goats is back with a legacy campaign with art by Sundara Tang and a 10-episode arc. And I should note, prototype, anything we have is based on the prototype we have. If there's things that are changing, I don't know all of them. But it's basically a 10-episode arc with like branching pathways where you kind of start in the first mission where it's like basically Mountain Goats. And then from there, each mission you get to choose a direction as you go through the story. I will note we will not be commenting on the story because we were specifically told the story we have is like the prototype story. It's just kind of just flavored to go ahead and guide you through it, but it's not the main story, so no notes in the story, but there is a story of like, you know, you're goats and you're traveling and you encounter this, and do you go along the bridge or do you go under the bridge? Do you go across the enchanted meadow or do you take the dark forest? And each of these branching scenarios gives you a slight change to the Mountain Goats formula. So to that end, I'm first going to go ahead and give you a brief overview of Mountain Goats because it is very brief, and then from there we'll talk about like the kinds of things that you can expect to see without any spoilers, and then of course our thoughts and opinions.
And before Alex jumps into the rules, one thing to note is that sometimes legacy games, when they become legacy, can become cooperative. This one is not. So this is a fully competitive game as well.
With that, the basic turn in Mountain Goats is you're going to take these dice and you're going to roll these dice. You're going to look at the dice and you're going to sit there and say, oh, how can I combine these to add up so my goats can move up mountains? So for example, I might take this 6 and this 2, and then I'll move up. A 6 and a 2 together is 8. I'm going to move up the 8 mountain over here. Then I'll take this 5 over here. Now this goat over here, you're going to look at this chart. This is already slightly different than regular Mountain Goats. The goat is either a 2, a 3, or a 1. You pick which one of these things that the goat is. So for example, I'm going to take that goat, call it a 3, combine it with a 5, and I have another 8. That's my turn. Go ahead, Meg, take your turn. We'll go with like 3 or 4 turns because that will give you a very quick overview of how this game plays.
All right. And so you have to be exact, like how Alex did. Now I could do double 7.
Or double 6s.
But
you could do double 7s? How do you double 5, 2, 4, 3? Yeah, you could. You could.
Like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
go for it.
Yeah, I'll do that. Oh, okay. I want it to be blue.
Blue, no problem. We'll make the swap.
Okay, because that would confuse me.
I'm going to go ahead and roll the dice over here and make another turn, and we have a very low roll potentially.
That was
bad. Now,
bad.
I could do 5s. Now, something I wanted to show you that I probably
Double 5s
can't.
isn't bad.
Well, I'll go ahead and do this, because I want to show you something specifically.
You could do a 10.
I'm going to do a 10, because I want to show you, especially if you're used to games like Can't Stop, you don't have to pair them up in groupings of 2s. You can pair them up however you want. You can do one die on its own. You can do all 4 together. So I'm going to do 3, 3, 2, 2 for a 10, and I'm going to move up the 10 mountain. To you, Meg?
Okay. Yeah, and like Alex was saying, the only thing you can't do, I thought I dropped the dice, the only thing you can't do is like a 5 and a 6 to be 10. So you can't overpay, but you can certainly underpay. Okay, so I do have the 7, so I'll use a 7 and a 9.
Okay, Meg's gonna go up the 7 and the 9. Now Meg got to the top of the mountain, which is what I wanted to see over here. Mm-hmm. Because she's at the top of the mountain, she's going to take one of these 7-point cards over here, and that goes to her. Those are points for her. In addition, in the future, as she goes up the mountain, meaning if she rolls a 7 again while she's at the top of the mountain, she will again get a 7. So if you're at the top, it's great to lock that in. Mm-hmm. But then the downside is, as other people just move up the mountain, if I get to the top, she gets crashing down to the bottom. Goats behind you don't fall down. Goats to the top of the mountain will fall down to the bottom when somebody else gets to the top. So you're basically trying to roll dice, work your way to the top of the mountains, gather those point cards, and then additionally, if you have a full set of 5 through 10, you'll be able to take one of these cards. You're going to take the 15 first, then the 12, the 9, then the 6, and the players are basically trying to get these cards for the points and for the sets. Game end will trigger when either 3-point card piles are empty or all of the 15, 12, 9, and 6 are gone. That will trigger game end. That's basically Mountain Goats. You have abilities, you roll dice, you combine them, you go to the top of the mountain, you knock goats down, you score points. That is basically traditional Mountain Goats. There's a slight shift from regular Mountain Goats. This card is a little different than what you expect to see, but other than that, it's Mountain Goats with, it's Mountain Goats. But that's where the legacy elements come in. Once you're done with this aspect, you're going to go through scenarios where you start unlocking things. That's where this board is key. You'll notice there's 2 abilities over here because you're going to be constantly replacing the abilities. So you always have 3 things a Mountain Goat symbol can be. It can either be a 1 or it can be any of the abilities, but you're constantly going to be expanding the pool of abilities you're going to have. You're also going to be adding a ton of different things that are happening. You're going to be adding various abilities that affect how each mountain scores. It's going to be changing round to round. You're going to be adding various tokens and dice and all these various elements that mix up the general game state. And there's going to be different ways you arrange the cards in order to have something crazy happen at different points. You're constantly going to be tweaking with the core formula of what Mountain Ghost Legacy does. You're going to be adding new mechanics, new ways to spend different resources and to earn different resources, new ways to score points within the piles. I'm being a little vague about all these things, but there's a lot of things you're going to be adding as you go through them. New tokens that will go on the map in different ways that will give you different challenges to overcome. So it starts off as core Mountain Goats, but as you go through it, you are expanding on that core engine, with some rules are going to be things that are singular events that affect a particular gameplay. You might be playing game 4 and something happens in game 4 that won't be happening for the rest of the time. Other times you might unlock something in game 3 that's going to be a mechanic that's going to be constantly present throughout the rest of your games. So you're basically messing with the core formula and either single shot things that mess with it once or ongoing things that change how the game operates as you play through it. You're going to play through the 10 scenarios that way, at which point you are given this kind of everlasting mode. And this isn't like a legacy mode where you play the final game forever. Rather, what you're going to be given is a way to mix and match all the various elements you've gotten so that you can either play through Mountain Ghost Legacy, as you will, or alternatively, you can just create your own structure when you're playing with that event and that rule change and these sets of cards and these abilities, so you can constantly basically have a Mountain Goats game that is utilizing all these things you've learned in ways you can call them modules. You're basically playing a modular Mountain Ghost. Mini expansions, so that you can play modular Mountain Goats again and again with different rules and combinations. And keep in mind, since you'll have played through this game with branching pathways of different missions you go on, there's going to be elements you haven't ever seen until you go into that forever mode. We're like, oh, we never played with the event that happens in chapter 6 and the alternate path we didn't take. But now we'll actually have that because we'll be able to mix and match all these various elements together to go ahead and just play modular Mountain Goats forever. That's basically Mountain Goats Legacy while being as spoiler-free as I possibly can be, which means it's time for our review of what I like, don't like, can see others not liking, all of that stuff. Meg, what do you like about the game?
Oh, goodness. So I gotta say, first and foremost, and we say it when it happens, this game is absolutely beautiful. I love the way it's redone. I love the goat meeples. I love the way the cards look. It's just beautiful. It really, really looks great. But I know that we can't... Okay, I'm not sure what this is.
Don't make me peek things out. I'm gonna forget. You know it's gonna happen.
Because it's not exactly story-based, but I do like the way the game pulls you through scenario to kind of introduce you to the next one. So I know that the story is going to be changing from what we were able to experience, but regardless, even the way certain rules cycle, which when you play you'll understand what I mean, you're going to have a couple things for a couple rounds, and you're going to have a certain pacing that, regardless how it feeds you scenario to scenario, I found was done very well. That you start off with the base rules, you have some things added, some things will really shock and surprise you, but some things will stick around that you can kind of get the hang of things. So I just think that the pacing for adding new things to the game was really well done.
Yeah, the general concept of Mountain Ghost for me is always a game I've liked. Like I said, I backed the original Kickstarter way back in the day, and it's one that I've stuck with. Like, I've had in my collection ever since because it's light and charming. It's a great family-friendly game. It's a good filler game. It falls into that can't stop kind of vibes where you're just rolling a bunch of dice, trying to go up and get a bunch of cards, knocking people down the mountain. There's a lot of basic strategy as far as which mountains to pursue, where the other people are in that journey, who's going after what, how many point cards there are. The basic engine is a very light, roll dice, gather things, knock people down, and try to win. Mountain Goat's Legacy really takes it to the next level in a way that adds a lot of things that make it thinky. It becomes a gamified version of Mountain Goats where suddenly it's not about roll dice get to the top of the mountain. You're juggling 7 different things that are going on. You're like, okay, I need to manage that resource. If I do this turn, I'm going to get some of that. But also there's these blockers on the board that are affecting me that. But also because of the scenario we're playing, column 5 is actually more important than it usually is. So I have to be mindful of that. You're basically playing the core concept of what Mountain Goats is, which is roll dice, move up the mountain, but you're doing so with a ton of other things happening. But it manages to do all this while never really escalating into a place of being a heavy game. This is still a light, friendly, accessible game, but it just became a lot more things being thrown at you one scenario at a time, so that you start having to calculate the pros and cons of just more levers to adjust as you try to optimize your score. So it manages to retain the accessibility of core Mountain Goats while adding in rules throughout the gameplay that give it a lot more weight to the different things you're juggling, that really elevated it to a nice place. It's much more rewarding than I thought it was, than I thought it would be when I first found out about this.
And another thing that I really enjoy is just that there are, I mean, for a game that's very simple and straightforward, there's multiple paths to victory. So the 10s are obviously the best to get, and I'm not sure if Alex said this, but each of the piles are different based on the number that they are, so there are less 10s than any other card. So it's easy for that pile to get depleted. So there's you can go for higher number cards, but also if anyone wants any of those rainbows, if you've taken every single 7, they're not getting a 7 anymore. So I think there's just a lot of ways for you to pivot and still get a huge chunk of points, or be able to mitigate and, stop others from getting those rainbow points and stuff like that. That the changes that will happen throughout the game as well, I find, even out the mountains to make all of them pretty worthy for you to be trying to get up on. So yeah, I just think that there's a lot of ways for you to pivot based on what other people start excelling at.
Yeah. Anything else as far as liking or anything don't like?
I love dice roll. I'm just gonna, I don't think I need to say more points of what I like, but I really love rolling dice. I think that it's just something that's in my blood. So yeah, this is a game that I have a fun time rolling dice, trying to math together how I think these things will fit. And, again, slight spoiler alert, when things go forward, you're going to be having even more things to math in when you're figuring out what your values are and where you might be able to go. So yeah, I do really like that aspect. Little puzzle.
For things I don't like, there's 2 things I have, both minor but still worth calling out. The first is that Mountain Goats is a game that I historically have mostly played with my kids. I've played with my friend group in general, it's a nice filler, but I primarily play with my kids. And I do think the more stuff you add here, especially if you're playing it with your kids, this does add a lot more. As much as I think that the extra stuff it adds doesn't take it to too high a level, I mean for me. For my kids, playing at different age levels, because I played this in kind of 2 sessions. I played the first 4 or 5 games while at, was it PAX Unplugged? Yeah, I think I played the first 4 or 5 games at PAX Unplugged with a bunch of content creators who we were all able to get through 4 or 5 games in an hour. It was incredibly fast.
I think it was 3.
3 games?
3 or 4.
3 or 4 games. 3 or 4 games in an hour. It was fast. We were able to get a lot done. But then I also play with my kids, and it's usually about an hour per session to go through it because, once you get past the first levels and you start adding all these things, because suddenly the decision space is a lot more, especially if you're playing with a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, and you have these 7 different variables, and they're trying to figure out how to optimize around it. So it definitely does change a little bit if you are playing it with younger audiences. My older kids are great at it. My younger kids a little bit struggled a bit more with it. So that's the first complaint I have. The second one I have is, I don't know if I want to call it a complaint so much as an observation. I don't even mind it. I guess it's more what I can see others not liking, but it's basically the idea that Mountain Goats is a general concept. The way you have this long pathway up here, but 5s are easier numbers. You have these short pathways here. These are only 2, but you have to spend all 10. There's fewer cards. Mountain Goats is a general concept, is balanced around probability and the way things should work. The more you add things into the game, the more rules get added, events happen, different things happen to different mountains, making them better and worse. The math of balance kind of goes out the window, meaning this stops being a game where every mountain is viable and you just have to find your pathway to victory, and it starts becoming, oh no, based on these different combinations happening, 5 and 7 are clearly the best mountains to go for this game, just because of those things that are happening in that particular session.
6-7?
Or 6-7. Yes, 6-7 is obviously the best mountain to go for. But it does change the math of it a bit, which means it's not necessarily balanced. It's about finding those optimal mountains to try to go for. Now, you could make the argument, fairly, you can make the argument, well, if it's now the optimal mountain and everyone's going for it, suddenly that makes the 5 better, because if 6-7s are the best mountains, then you want other people to go for the 5 and the 8, so they're not facing competition. But it does change the way you approach the game. Again, I don't really mind, this is just worth knowing. You'll play a game of Mountain Goats where it's not really balanced, where certain columns are less useful than other columns, and depending on what other players are doing, you might be able to win through just be able to see the patterns of optimization, as opposed to having a balanced all paths will lead you to victory, and you have to min-max your way along the way. So again, it's just an adjustment for the way Mountain Goats regularly works. It doesn't really bother me, but it's worth being aware of.
And I would say my complaint is similar but different, where I tend to roll well. So I'm someone speaking from the rolling well universe, but to those of you who don't live in my universe, you might not roll well all the time. And I do think, like you were saying, the more you add, you can also, because like this will start to get filled, and then so your goat die will always mean something, which is very cool and clever, and I love that because it does change. But that basically means if you roll like 3 or 4 2s, that's the worst anyone can be doing.
Yeah.
It's really bad. And, you know, like odds-wise, that doesn't always happen. A game I love is Castles of Burgundy, and you can have a purely terrible game every like 1 in 100 games. So I do think my one thing with this is that because it's a legacy game, that can kind of add feelings that, you know, if you're not doing well a couple games in a row or things like that, I can see that happening because it's all based on dice rolling.
Yeah. As far as final thoughts, overall for me, I'm going to be coming in at a 4 out of 5 on this one. I really enjoy what Mountain Goats Legacy is doing. It takes the core Mountain Goats formula and it makes it more gamified. For me, it makes the game much more interesting. Like Mountain Goats, I've had Mountain Goats for check how many years the Kickstarter came out. I've had it for that many years, and it is one of those games that I did pull out a little less over time because it's the exact same thing every single time you do it. I like both the legacy version of this game and the modular aspect where you can mix and match things to be able to kind of just make your own. We're playing this combination of rules today. It takes a straightforward dice rolling game where you're just trying to get a bunch of cards and score quickly and play through half an hour, 45 minutes of just dice rolling fun. And then it gives you both a legacy game that gives you that kind of like go through it all, earn a point, see who wins each scenario, but it also gives you a modular way to play it. I think it's a good iteration on the system. The main complaint I have is just the knowledge that this does take some of, again, Mountain Goats is a game that I have generally played it successfully with my 6-year-old all the way up to my 14-year-old, and now my 6-year-old kind of struggles a bit more with it and needs to play on a team, and the rest of the kids are still doing fine. That's the only complaint, so to speak. It just changes the target audience a little bit for it.
Yeah, and so for me, and again, I'm a dice goblin, so maybe that's part of it, I'm going to come in at a 4.5 asterisk. So
What's
for
the
me,
asterisk?
I absolutely love legacy games, so I am going to asterisk and withhold my full review until we know the story and how it unfolds and everything like that, because that is something that just matters a lot to me. So I am excited to see, you know, where this lands for me perhaps next year at the end of the year and things like that. I don't know, when is it? I don't know when I'll have it.
Coming.
So anyway, whenever after, we'll see how I like it then. So for right now, it's a 4.5. That could go up, that could go down. I would expect it would go up based on the story if it changes.
As far as game recommendations, if you enjoy Mountain Goats Legacy, if you want other similar games, check out Machikoro Legacy. It kind of utilizes the Machikoro system, obviously based on that name, and it just gives you a legacy game that, if I recall correctly, plays out across 10 games as well. It also falls into that very lightweight, accessible, giving you a few things add on to the game as you play. It kind of took another dice rolling system, but this one based about building up your engine and gathering cards, and gave you a fun legacy game out of it.
And I'm going to recommend Charterstone. It's an oldie but a goodie, but it's also very wholesome and cute. So it is very competitive, and you're going to be going through like these different legacy scenarios, but it's also just really pretty, and you have like pumpkin buildings and stuff. So it gives a very similar whimsical vibe while being competitive.
In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co.
I'm Professor Meg.
Hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, I hope you have a good one.
Bye!